From August 1st, 1894 to April 17th, 1895, the Qing dynasty of China fought against the Japanese Empire for over who should control late Joseon Korea, ending in a Japanese decisive victory as a result. Japan added the Korean peninsula to its sphere of influence and gained Formosa, which is Taiwan, the Penghu Island, and the Liaodong Peninsula. However, this did not come without loss. Approximately 35,000 Chinese soldiers were killed or wounded in battle, while Japan only lost 5,000. And worse yet, this would not be the end of tensions of the Second Sino-Japanese War, which started in 1937, which part of the first actions of World War II. In this video, we will talk about the First Sino-Japanese War.
ليس مهما كما ظننت سأفعل.
In the second half of the 19th century, the American Commodore Matthew Perry forced open an ultra-traditional and secluded Tokugawa Japan. As an indirect result, the power of the Shoguns ended and Japan went through the 1868 Meiji Restoration, with the island nation quickly modernizing and militarizing as a result. But meanwhile, the traditional heavyweight champion of East Asia, the Qing dynasty, which is, China, failed to update its own military and bureaucracy, and losing 2 opium wars to the Western powers. As the preeminent power in the region, China had for centuries enjoyed a measure of control over the neighboring tributary states, including Joseon Korea and Vietnam, even sometimes Japan. However, China's humiliation by the British and French exposed its weaknesses, and as the 19th century drew to a close, Japan decided to exploit this opening. Japan's goal was to seize the Korean peninsula, which military thinkers considered a, quote, a dagger pointed at the heart of Japan, end quote. Certainly Korea had been the staging ground for earlier invasions by both China and Japan against one another. For example, Kublai Khan's invasion of Japan in 1274 and 1281, or Toyotomi Hideyoshi's attempts to invade Ming China and Korea in 1592 and 1597. After a couple decades of jockeying for a position over Korea, Japan and China began outright hostilities on July 28, 1894, at the Battle of Sungwon. Also, on July 23rd, the Japanese had entered Seoul and seized the Joseon king, Gojong, who was retitled the Gwangmu, the Emperor of Korea, to emphasize his new independence from China. 5 days later, much fighting began at Sungwon, but also much of the First Sino-Japanese War was fought at sea, where the Japanese Navy had advantage over its antiquated Chinese counterpart, mostly due to the Empress Dowager Cixi reportedly siphoned off some of the funds meant to update the Chinese Navy in order to rebuild the summer palace in Peking, modern-day Beijing. But in any case, Japan cut the Chinese supply lines for its garrison at Sungwon by a naval blockade. Then the Japanese and Koreans land troops and overran the 3,500-strong Chinese force on July 28th, killing 500 of them and capturing the rest. The two sides officially declared war on August 1st. Surviving Chinese forces retreated to the northern city of Pyongyang and dug in while the Qing government sent reinforcements, bringing the total Chinese garrison at Pyongyang to about 15,000 troops. Under the cover of the darkness, the Japanese encircled the city early in the morning of September 15, 1894, and launched a simultaneous attack from all directions. After approximately 24 hours of stiff fighting, the Japanese took Pyongyang, and leaving around 2,000 Chinese dead and 4,000 injured or missing, while the Japanese Imperial Army only reported 568 men dead, injured, or missing. With the loss of Pyongyang, plus a naval defeat in the Battle of the Yalu River, China decided to withdraw from Korea and fortify its borders. On October 24, 1894, the Japanese built bridges across the Yalu River and marched into Manchuria. Meanwhile, Japan's navy landed troops on the strategic Liaodong Peninsula, which just cut out into the Yellow Sea between North Korea and Beijing. Japan soon seized Chinese cities of Mukden, Shuyuan, Talonwin, and Lushangu, or also known as Port Arthur. Beginning on November 21st, Japanese troops rampaged through Lushangu in the infamous Port Arthur massacre, killing thousands of unarmed Chinese civilians. The outclassed Qing fleet retreated to supposed safety at the fortified harbor of Weihaiwei. But however, the Japanese land and sea forces laid a siege to the city on January 20th, 1895. Weihaiwei held out until February 12th, and in March, China lost Go in Manchuria and Pescadores Islands near Taiwan. By April, the Qing government realized that the Japanese were approaching Peking, and the Chinese decided to sue for peace. On April 17, 1895, the Qing dynasty and Japan signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki, which ended the First Sino-Japanese War. China relinquished all claims to influence over Korea, which became a Japanese protectorate until it was annexed in 1910. Japan also took control of Taiwan, the Penghu Islands, and the Liaodong Peninsula. In addition to the territorial gains, Japan received war reparations of 200 million taels of silver from China. The Qing government also had to grant Japan trade favors, including permission for Japanese ships to sail up the Yangtze River, manufacturing grants for Japanese companies to operate in Chinese treaty ports, and the opening of 4 additional treaty ports to Japanese trading vessels. Alarmed by the quick rise of Meiji Japan, 3 of the European empires intervened after the Treaty of Shimonoseki was signed. Russia, Germany, and France particularly objected to Japan's seizure of the Liaodong Peninsula, which Russia also coveted. The 3 powers pressured Japan into relinquishing the peninsula to Russia. In exchange for an addition of 30 million taels of silver, Japan's victorious military leaders saw this European intervention as a humiliating sight, which helped spark the Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905. So that's the history of the Russo-Japanese War. I hope you liked the video, and I'm sorry if I butcher some of these names. I use Google Translate to help me pronounce these words, so yeah. So I hope you liked the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.